Good morning, everybody. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International. All right, let me see here. Let me get this off the screen here. Today's show, this ain't DIY. Oh my gosh. We've never done a show like this before. This is the first one that actually gets down deep into, should we try this on our own and keep doing it on our own, even though people have been paying off debt forever on their own DIY. Okay? Doing it yourself. But we found out that by doing it DIY, no matter what program you're using, on average, you will pay $50,000 to $75,000 more in interest than you need to, even though you're getting out of debt faster. And we're going to show you some of these things today. So if you're ready to find out why this ain't DIY and that DIY ain't cheap, if you're ready for that today, you want to listen, you want to be in this show. All right. Start telling your friends, start telling your family, start telling your coworkers, get in here right now. Let's get started. All right, my name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International, a better way to eliminate debt. And today's show, this ain't DIY. We're going to get down deep into why it is necessary to get help in getting out of debt these days. You can certainly do it on your own. You don't need a computer to save money and to get out of debt. You don't. You don't need a computer to pay early on your credit cards. You don't need a computer to pay early on your mortgage or your student loans. But I'm telling you, there are so many different variables that we have identified that if you are not careful, you will pay a lot more interest than you need to pay in getting out of debt. Can I tell you a little bit about my story? All right. So I have what's called autism spectrum disorder. So when I look at an amortization schedule, that's the schedule that the banks have put together to charge us interest. The first self-amortizing loan was in 1936, and no information is being taught to the general public as to how it works. So we have dedicated ourselves to the idea of getting the truth out to people so that they can know what's really going on behind the scenes when it comes to paying all of this money that you don't have to pay. Folks, it is absolutely ridiculous how much money they're expecting us to pay on these loans. So to get started here, I want to give just a quick tutorial on how amortization is costing us a lot of money. And then we'll get into why DIY is not the way to go anymore. And DIY ain't cheap. All right. So let me put this on the screen. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So let me see. This is one of my favorite examples. Okay. This is and if you want to do this yourself, you can. Now I'm putting on the screen an amortization calculator, and it is developed by a guy named Brett Whistle, BRETWHISSEL. And if you want to see these numbers, I see you Kiba on watching us on YouTube. I see you this morning. Thank you for being here, and thank you for saying so. All right. So listen, if you want to see if you want to see these numbers, go to YouTube or Facebook. All right. But when you get there, please join our our Facebook group, or if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are on a mission, folks, and you can help us get this information out. So I'm going to put on the screen right now a $200,000 mortgage, okay? A $200,000 mortgage, and I'm going to put on at 6%. Now, we're going to get into this a little deeper a little later, because the average median home price across the country right now is $420,000. But I'm just using these numbers so that we can become a little bit clearer about the mortgage mechanics that people are not getting. All right. So you don't want to miss this. All right. So Mr. David Lucas is come in and is trying to sell us crypto mining. All right. So we don't want that today, Mr. Lucas. So we're going to delete that. Okay. So don't put that in there. Don't put that. Stephen, you're back. I see you. I am Meek. You are back. I see you. All right. Rosalind, you're back. All right. So let's get into this right now. A $200,000 mortgage at 6%. Number one, the bank wants this much money. The payment is $1,199.10. They want this much money in interest, $231,676. What? $231,000 interest on a $200,000 loan at 6%? Well, folks, that ain't 6%. No, it's 115.838%. So from the very beginning, we're being overcharged. Not only that, but somebody put down between 3.5% to 20% down on this mortgage just to get this mortgage, so they can be overcharged by 115%. Somebody put some money down on this. Okay. So already this thing ain't free. Okay. It ain't even close to free. So let me show you what's happening with this loan on the very first payment. If the payment is $1199.10, now I'm not teaching you my method yet. I'm just going over some simple mortgage mechanics right now that everybody needs to know, even from 7th and 8th grade. All right. So the payment breaks down like this. The first payment, $199.10 goes to principal. $1,000 goes to interest. What? So let's break this down as to why the banks use amortization and the banks sell their mortgages to investors, and why investors love this instrument, especially when you don't know what I'm getting ready to teach you. Okay? Especially this. So if the first interest payment is $1,000, okay, $1,000. So I'm going to put that in my calculator, $1,000, okay, and the payment is $1199.10. So we're going to divide it by the entire payment, $1,199.10, okay, equals 83%. 83% of this payment is interest. In other words, when you pay your mortgage, when you pay this mortgage and the payment is $1,199.10, it's probably a lot less than the rent you would be paying for a comparable house. Okay, a lot less than the rent. But when you make this payment of $1199.10, 83% of it is discounted, meaning it doesn't count for you. They call it interest. I call it a discount. Okay, 83% of it. So 83 cents out of every dollar you pay towards your mortgage goes up in smoke, called interest. And you're only paying off your mortgage with 17 cents out of every dollar when you make that payment. But we get so used to making the payment because it's affordable. It's affordable, but it is hugely expensive and at the same time. And it is the most inefficient way on the planet to pay back a loan. With what I mean by inefficient, when you give somebody your money and 83% of it doesn't even count towards you, that's that is my definition of inefficient. Okay. So listen, raise your hand, come to the stage, ask questions. If you're watching us online, put your questions in the chat because we're going to show you why this ain't DIY, not by a long shot. So if we do what the bank wants us to every single month so that investors can continue to make money, I need you to take a look at the principal line here. Look at the principal column just for 1 year. Every time you make a payment, about $200 pays down your loan. Every single month on this loan, and this is just $200,000 at 6%, when the interest rates are right around 7% right now on $400,000. Oh my gosh. Look how little money is going to pay down the loan. This is why the banks and investors love this thing. And they love it because you have not been taught any of the mortgage mechanics. So, just to show you how you can use this information to benefit you, all right, I need you to put in the chat a number 9, wherever you are. Put a number 9 in the chat right now if you want to see how this system, which seems so unfair, so backwards, you're trying to pay off a house, okay, and tiny amounts of your money go to pay down the principal. Put a number 9 in the chat if you want to see what's right here in front of us that the banks and the investors don't want us to see. Go ahead. All right. I see. Oh, I see. I see a number 9 in there. Bam. Come on now. If you all want to see this, go to YouTube right now on a separate device. You can pull up your other phone, go on your computer. You can still listen to me on Clubhouse. I see you, Shannon. I see you, Megan. I see you. All right. Thank you very much for putting a number 9 in there. All right. Let me show you what the banks don't want you all to see. This is what they don't want you to see. If I make a payment here in January, okay, let's just say I made my very first payment in January. February's principal payment is right here, $200.10. As far as you know, okay, Kiba, Sharon, Megan, and everybody else here in Clubhouse, as far as you know, that $200.10 that the bank wants to get from me in February, and I just made my January payment, do I have to wait till February to give the bank $200.10 or any amount of money for that matter? Once I make my mortgage payment, do I have to wait till the next month to give them any money? Okay. Answer is no. It says, what is the name of your channel on YouTube? It's the P.I.L.L method. Okay. It is the P.I.L.L method. Everything we do is P.I.L.L method. Maha. Thank you for asking. So you definitely want to see these numbers, folks. It doesn't make sense if you can't see the numbers. Go to YouTube and search P.I.L.L method, P-I-L-L method, and it'll pop right up and you'll be able to see what we're talking about. Okay. All right. So all right. So here's what we're doing, folks. Go look at the principal column here. And if we decide we want to give the bank this $200.10 early, let's say we want to do that, give them $200.10 early. Do you realize they have to subtract that from what we owe immediately? We're paid down to line 2 on their amortization schedule. When we give them the first payment, $199 is subtracted from the $200,000 that we owe, which leaves us $199,800.90 here on line 1. If we give them the $200.10 in the same month, then they have to subtract that immediately from what we owe. And now we're paid down to line 2 on the amortization schedule in month one, which means they use this number, the principal balance on line 2, to determine how much interest I pay on line 3. So since I'm already on line 2, my next mortgage payment for February is on line 3 of this amortization schedule. And this is exactly what they don't want you to know. How do I know that? Because many of you have been paying extra money on your loans for years. You've been doing that. You've been putting extra money on principal. Listen, I'm just talking to a guy in New York. He just came on board. He's got over $1 million in debt. He just came on board and he was telling me, he says, Don, because of the website, right? Because he's been watching me on TikTok. He says, because of their website, from my bank, I'm putting extra money on, and they have a date that I'm supposed to be out of debt. I'm putting extra money on, but the date doesn't change. It doesn't tell me I'm going to be paid off any sooner. The date doesn't change on the website. So I had to explain to him that a lot of websites aren't set up for that. What you need to be looking at is your principal payment coming down, because they will not tell you how far down you a lot of banks don't want you to know how far down into your amortization schedule you are by making those extra payments. So if you knew how much interest you were saving, oh my goodness, you would certainly get some ideas. Okay. So they don't want you to know. So he's telling me it's not making any changes. So when we told him we're going to save him over $500,000 in interest, that's number one. Okay. We showed him how the math works on this thing. All right. And by making strategic payments, you could be out of debt in about 10 years instead of 30 years. And you're able to do it with your current budget. Lord have mercy, with your current budget, and you don't have to sacrifice lifestyle because you save a ton of interest when you do it right, and you do it with specific amounts of money at specific times. So when he learned that, and I showed him the difference between doing it yourself and doing it with help, he said, oh my gosh, I'm in. So he said, so he's on the program now. All right. Thank you, New York, for watching us on TikTok. But here's what you need to see. You have been paying extra for years, but the bank has never sent you a receipt that said, here's how much interest you saved. Okay. I need somebody to tell me, listen, whenever you made an extra payment, did the bank ever tell you? Ever? Did they ever tell you that you saved a certain amount of interest with this extra payment? Yes or no? Put it in the chat. Okay. Okay. Rosalind Bruce says, I see it. I see it. Okay. So now here's what you need to know. If you prepay this $200.10, you drop down to line 3 on this amortization schedule, and you skip right over this $999 in interest you never have to pay. What? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how much clearer I can make this. When you try to do this yourself, here's what's happening. You're getting equity in your property every single time you make a payment. Every single time you make a payment, you're getting potential equity. Okay. $199.10 worth of equity. And then the next month, another $200 in equity. And the next month after that, another $201 in equity. Okay. You're getting the equity. Okay? You're getting it. But the first bit of equity cost you $1,000 of your money. $999 the next month of your money. $998. Do you want to keep paying nearly $1,000 a month doing it yourself just to get $200 worth of equity? Does that make sense, everybody? Now that you see how they're doing it, does it make sense? When you can choose to pay when you want to pay, when you pay when the bank is not expecting it, you make it impossible for them to charge you interest. What? Impossible. So I'm not saying you save a little bit. I'm telling you, when you pay at a specific time when they're not expecting it, you make it impossible for them to charge you interest. Okay, Rosalind said, I understand. I understand, Rosalind says. So listen, I prepay this. I'm paid down to here. I'm on line 3 immediately, where my next payment is 201.10 and 998 going to interest. You are going to pay some interest on this loan. But how would you like to pay 75% less using your current budget? How would you like to be able to pay off in 7 to 9 years instead of 30 years to never, by understanding how amortization works and how you can optimize interest savings? What do I mean by optimize interest savings? You already know that you can save money in interest every time you put extra money on a loan. But did you know that doing the right thing at the right time, you can save more interest per dollar? Every dollar you place on principal when the bank's not expecting it, you can save some interest, or you can save the maximum amount of interest that dollar can bring you. My goodness, when you go to the grocery store, do you want to come out of that grocery store with as much food as you possibly can and pay as little money as you possibly can? I mean, isn't that your goal when you buy gasoline? When you buy anything? When you buy anything, do you want to get as much as you can and pay as little as you can? You better believe it. But when it comes to borrowing money, we need to know what our true goal is. We've been told that our goal is this: pay off the loan. That's it. Pay off the loan. How fast can you pay off the loan? That's our goal. Get the loan paid off. That ain't your goal. Paying off the loan isn't your goal. Mm-mm. Your goal, ladies and gentlemen, is to pay as little interest as possible. So let me ask you this. If all of your debt was 0% interest, I mean, they weren't charging you any interest on the money you borrowed, is there any financial benefit to you to pay the loan off early? Is there any financial benefit to you to pay a loan off early that's charging you 0 interest? You see what I'm saying? Bam says no. Bam says no. Okay? So then it's not the amount that you borrowed that we need to manage. It is what it costs to manage the debt that you need to manage. And if you can pay less interest, that means more of the money that you have can go to principal to pay down the loan. Can I show you another story about this? Can I show you what I mean by this? If you want me to show you what I mean by you giving the bank money when you want to, you pay a lot less interest to get the same thing, put a number 7 in the chat. Put a number 7 in and I'll show you. Okay. I'm not going to show you unless I see some 7s. I need to know you're listening. I can't see you. Okay. So I need to know you're listening online. All right. Oh, Laura, come on, Laura. Come on, Laura. I see you. I see you there. Bam, you didn't just put a 7 in, you spelled the whole thing out. Okay. What does that mean when you spell it all out? To me, that means emphasis. Okay. I have special emphasis on this information I want to know. Okay. All right. Bam, I'm reading you, brother. I'm reading you. Okay. So listen, watch this. I need you to take a look at cumulative principal here. cumulative principal on this line and cumulative interest. All right. I'm telling you now that DIY ain't cheap. Doing it yourself ain't cheap. Okay. All right. So at the end of 1 year, we'll pay this loan down by $2,456 and a penny. And the interest, oh, I see you, Sharon. Thank you for putting your number 7 in. Thank you for putting it in. All right. All right. And 11,933 in interest. Let me bring my calculator back because you need to see this. Okay. The payment is $1,199.10. $1,199.10. Okay. Times 12. That's 12 monthly payments. 12 monthly payments that you can afford. This is cheaper than rent, ladies and gentlemen. This payment for this particular house is cheaper than if they rented it. Okay? Rented the same house. So we think we're getting a bargain. So when we multiply that by 12, that's 12 months. That's a total of $14,389.20. So this family in 1 year will pay their mortgage company or their bank $14,389.20, and that's just on a $200,000 loan. Wait till I put these other loans in. $14,389.20. But out of that money, you paid out, family, only $2,456 counted for you. How does that make you all feel that this is what's going on and nobody's explaining it to us? $2,456 and a penny. So let me do this then. So if I start out at 200,000, okay, and I subtract $2,456 and a penny, I'm left with $197,543.99. Folks, that's exactly what I have here on line 12. So my question to you is, do I want to get here where I'm paid down to right here in 12 monthly installments? Okay. I'm getting here at $200 a month. Do I have to do it that way? Do I have to give them $200 a month and throw away nearly $1,000 a month to get here? Or if I had the money, could I give it to them all at one time and they would have to subtract it from what I owe if I did it on line 1? Would they have to subtract it? Do they have to do that? I'm telling you, they have to. They have to do it that way. It's written in the rules, but they don't have to explain the rules to us. They just get our money, okay? So if I give them this money on line 1, I'm paid down to line 12 immediately. Okay? No pass go, don't collect $200. I mean right now. I skip all the interest payments between line 2 and line 12. I'm paid down to here for only $1,000 in interest. Okay. Only cost me $1,000 in interest instead of $11,933.19. Folks, that is a huge savings. That is $10,944.42 cheaper to do it this way than to do it the bank's way. Do you all see that? Let me know you see and understand right now. Let me know that you see this and understand it. Okay? Let me know you see it and understand it. Okay? So now let me show you something about DIY. Let me show you what happens when somebody gets out there and starts teaching DIY, like using the debt snowball. Have you ever heard of the debt snowball? Dave Ramsey teaches the debt snowball. When this type of information hits the internet, when Dave Ramsey teaches the debt snowball, meaning we're going to focus on how fast to pay off the debt. And we're going to pay off the smaller debts, which only charge you a few dollars in interest every month and leave the big one to last, like the mortgage. We're going to leave that to last. So the average family has 13 different debts. Did you know that? The average family has 13 different debts, and they have, let's see, they pay 35 to 39% of their income just on interest alone. Dave Ramsey is saying, yes, you may have 13 different debts, but we're going to start with the smallest one and pay it off so you can feel good. All right. And then you're going to take that money that you used to pay on that smallest one, and now you're going to roll it into the next largest one. But what he doesn't tell you is that the ones you're paying off have the tiniest interest payments, not interest rate, but interest payments. So the idea is not to pay off the debt. We just showed you, we just proved the idea is not to pay off the debt fast. We just proved that the idea is to pay as little interest as you possibly can. So let me ask you, if every dollar you have can save you $6 in interest, then do you want to save $3 when you could save 6 with that same dollar? How would you know the difference? How would you know the difference if you don't have a way of measuring? You can't optimize what you can't measure. You can't put together a plan to save the most money in interest if you don't know how to measure how much interest you're saving each time you do something. And this is the place where they have us. Okay? So I need you all to listen. So once this information gets out, once this information got out, I need you to listen to this. Here is just one of Dave Ramsey's reactions to P.I.L.L method information hitting the internet. Watch this.
Good.
So I am more of like a future planner. Like, I don't like to think just like, where are we going to be in 5 years? Like, I'm thinking more about the mortgage when my husband graduates, because we'll have a much larger income.
Mm-hmm.
And I have heard a lot about like prepaid interest or prepaid principal.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't really understand how that works. Like, I was watching the P.I.L.L method, and then he was talking about taking out loans, and I was like, this guy's a nut. So I just stopped listening.
Okay. He said he went straight to he is a nut. Who's he talking about? He knows exactly who he's talking about. But I need you to watch his body language as soon as she mentions prepaid principal, because he doesn't talk about that. I need you to watch his body language. We're going to play it one more time. When she says prepaid principal, watch his body language.
Good.
So I am more of like a future planner. Like, I don't like to think just like, where are we going to be in 5 years? Like, I'm thinking more about the mortgage when my husband graduates, because we'll have a much larger income.
Mm-hmm.
And I have heard a lot about like prepaid interest or prepaid principal.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't really.
Did you see that? He listen. He sits up, and folds his arms. What does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen? When people start doing that, okay, it's a defensive stance. Okay, it says, oh no, he's closing himself off. He was open when she was talking about what he's doing, but as soon as he heard prepaid principal, oh my goodness, that threatens everything he's teaching. Okay, it threatens everything he's teaching, because when you prepay principal and you know that you could save by paying this money early, you could save $10,000. Okay, why would you ever do this? Watch this. Here's another story. I had a family who pays off their credit cards every single month. Every single month they pay them off. He says, and they're really proud of the fact that they pay off their credit cards every month. And our program was telling them, just pay the minimums on your credit card this month. And they said, what? I've never paid the minimum on my credit card, ever. I've always paid it off. because I don't want to get charged that interest. I said, well, how much interest are you talking about? I said, listen, we're at 12% interest. So why would I pay 12% interest? And at the time, their mortgage was right around 3%. Why would I pay 12% interest on my mortgage? Okay. 12% interest on my credit card when my mortgage was just around 3%. Why would I do that? I said, okay, do you know how much interest that is on your credit card? How much interest you're paying per month in dollars and cents? I said, no, I just know it's 12%. No, that's 12% a year. That's 12% a year. So that means 2% a month. Okay, bam. What's up, man?
Hey, brother, I won't be talking much, but if you mod me, I'll monitor your chat so I can take crap out that gets put in.
I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it. Okay. So listen, folks, here's what here's what here's what they found out. Okay. Let me put this on the screen for you. Okay. This credit card thing. This is what Dave is teaching, opposed to what we're teaching. All right. So let's go ahead and duplicate this tab. All right. We have a $1,200 credit card. Okay. At 12%. When you put on Brett Whistle, all credit cards go in at 240 months. Okay. How much interest are they going to be paying on this month? Look at here. $12. That's what that means. You're going to pay $12 in interest this month. So if you pay off that $1,200 credit card this month, even though it's at 12%, congratulations. You just saved $12. That's what's going on here, ladies and gentlemen. $12. They're getting you all Twitter-pated about $12. So Dave Ramsey is telling you, pay off that credit card and save $12. Or if you have this mortgage, okay, if you have this mortgage, you could put $1,200 on here on your mortgage and knock off 6 months worth of payments and save yourself almost $6,000 in interest. Can I put this another way? So, would it be okay to take the money I owe Visa, put it on this mortgage, knock off 12 months worth of mortgage payments, save nearly $6,000 in interest? But what it means is I got to pay Visa $12 in interest. Is that a fair trade? Do you see what we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen? This ain't DIY. It's far from it. When I showed them that, they said, you know what? We're just going to follow the program from now on. We did not know this. We didn't know. We didn't know. And now they know. So here's what, listen. Do you know that there was somebody else that we've talked to in the past? Okay. Well, so Don, these are people that don't make a lot of money. What about those people who make a lot of money and they could pay off their houses cash? If you pay off your house cash, what you're doing there is you are violating the law of diminished return. The whole idea of paying off debt is to save the maximum amount of interest that you can save. Here's another story. Okay. Got a guy who is an engineer. Okay. He's paying, he's making a lot of money now, and he's going to be able to pay off the last $263,000 that he owes in just 3.5 years. $263,000 on his mortgage in 3.5 years by throwing a lot of money at the debt. And he's going to be able to he's only going to be able to pay $16,000 in interest. $16,000 in interest to pay that loan off. All right. And he's actually in my program, and he's telling the computer, I'm making more money now. And the computer says, if you follow this plan, you're going to be out of debt in 3.5 years. But because he has a coach that goes along with the computer, the coach says, and me being his coach this time, okay, I'm telling him, you're paying off the loan too fast and you're not paying enough interest. He says, I thought that was the idea. I said, let's do some math on this thing, okay, so you can understand. All right. By paying this off in 3.5 years, all right, you're going to pay $16,000 in interest, correct? He said, yes. I said, well, tell the program you're making $2,000 a month less. Tell the program that. We opened up the program, we made some changes in it. And with those changes in this dynamic program, it told him he's going to be out of debt now in 6.5 years, not 3.5. He's going to pay $20,000 in interest, not 16. He says, why would I do that? I'm paying more in interest and it's taking me longer to get out of debt. Why would I do that? I said, okay, what would you have to do to change that? He says, I have to put that $2,000 a month back into my system so that I can be out of debt in 3.5 years. I said, okay, let's do that. But if we do, that's 3 years, that's 36 months, plus a half year, that's another 6 months. That's a total of 42 months that you're going to be putting $2,000 a month in towards debt reduction. 42 times 2,000 is $84,000. Remember what we talked about at the top of the show. The reason why we pay off debt is not to pay it off fast. It is to pay it off cheap. Okay? We want to save money. So he's got to pay at this stage of the game, he's got to pay an additional $84,000 towards prepaid debt reduction just to save $4,000 in interest. Do you think it's worth it to go from $20,000 in interest down to 16? Do you think it's worth it to pay 84 grand just to save $4,000 in interest? You tell me, ladies and gentlemen, do you think it's worth it? Okay. Or is there a point where we're violating the law of diminished returns? So we put a big chunk of money in, but the benefit we get is so small, it doesn't make sense to do it anymore. Or should we be putting that money towards some sort of investment so we can make a lot more money than we can save in interest? It's called critical point analysis, ladies and gentlemen. Critical point analysis. What is that critical point? What is the critical point where the amount of money that you're using can be better used to make you money than to save you money in interest? And who's going to be monitoring that? You see, there's another argument for computers to help you to do this. And so if you have a lot of money, like some people I know that are on our program, they have a lot of money. They choose not to pay off their mortgages when they could. They have so much money they could pay off their mortgage at any time, but they would rather do this: take a strategic look at paying off the mortgage, a strategic way of doing it, instead of throwing all of their money at the debt and losing the ability to invest money to make greater gains. They want to do both. I want to save as much interest as I can and save money. Oh my gosh. Here's one person that I know that can command $150,000 an hour just to speak, okay, to corporations. Right? He is the number one motivational speaker on the planet right now, Dr. Eric Thomas, who could pay off the mortgage at any time he wants, but he uses this method to do it. Listen to Dr. Eric Thomas tell his story.
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, My boy was like, you ain't got to do that. You can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down from my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.
Did you see that at the end of the show? At the end of his clip, ice10k.com, ice10k.com. Go there, and when you go to ICE, ICE stands for Interest Cancellation Expert. Go to ICE, the number 10, the letter K.com. It's scrolling across the screen right now, and get a savings and earnings report. It's complimentary. Okay, get a savings and earnings report. You can know the month, day, and year you could be debt free. All right, using a system that optimizes all of your money so that you can have more but pay less for it. You listen, you want to pay as little of your money as possible to get what you need in life. And we have been told that we don't need that type of accuracy. We can guess our way through this thing and just throw our money willy-nilly at stuff and not save as much as we possibly can. The same people that would use a coupon to save 10 cents on a can of beans, okay, are throwing thousands of dollars away on their mortgage because they don't know that they can discount that too by thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, and even hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay. He gets it. Eric Thomas gets it. So let's talk about this for just a second, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you talk about people who have quite a bit of money. Let me show you somebody else who has quite a bit of money that was doing it all on their own. Okay, they were doing, let me bring this up. Okay, here it is. He was doing this all on his own. Okay, $2 million in debt. $2 million in debt, but he's making a ton of money off these buildings that he has. $57,800 a month. His mortgage payments were only less than $15,000 a month. Okay, all right, less than $15,000 a month. I see you. Listen, Laura, I see you. I see you. Okay, David Lucas keeps popping in and just putting this stuff in here. I don't know why he's doing that because all we're going to do is delete it. Okay, I don't know how they get in here so fast, get in and get out and drop that stuff in there. Okay, folks, don't pay attention to that stuff. Okay, but because we're just going to get it out of here. Okay, all right. So anyway, watch this, ladies and gentlemen. Watch this. Here we go. $2 million in debt. Okay, I'm going to show him how he doesn't have to pay $1,123,000 in interest. I can show him how to pay $231,000 in interest by making strategic payments. Okay, by making strategic payments. All right. Now you're saying, well, Don, isn't he using, if he's making $57,000 a month on this, isn't he using a great deal of his money? Isn't he breaking that rule you just told us about? Oh, no. You know what he told me? He says, I read your book, Don. I like the idea of saving interest. I like the idea that when you gave me this form, that this savings and earnings report, that I could save $891,000 in interest. I never have to pay the bank. I like that. Okay. But here's what I need you to know. Out of my average of $57,800 every month, $36,000, about 63% of everything I make, I put right back into investing in other property. You can't touch that money. What? You can't touch that money. So if you think it takes a lot of money to get out of debt, oh my goodness, that is what the banks want you to think when you're doing it yourself. DIY says you need a lot of money to get out of debt. So what did we use instead? Okay. He's got a reserve fund where he puts 11% of his money that he makes into this reserve fund to do maintenance and repairs on all of his buildings. Okay. All right. So only a small amount of money is, comparatively to what he makes, about $6,000 a month goes into that fund. So when he puts that money in this fund, do you know how much he has in that fund right about now? He has about $100,000 in that fund. So I showed him on one of his mortgages what he could do instead. And then you tell me. I'm going to bring up one of his mortgages. All right. Put that on the screen. Let's pull this down. All right. Let's pull up one of his mortgages. Okay. One of his mortgages where he's paying $8,704 a month. This is just one of them. It is $1,648,999.41. $1,600,000 on a mortgage at 5%. Okay. Okay. I need to hold on for a second, folks. I need to make sure we have the right information here. There we go. This is right. All right. It's $1,488,906.65 at 5% interest. Okay. $1,400,000, not $1,600,000, $1,488,000. Okay. Here's how this loan breaks down. $2,500 a month going to principal, $6,000 to interest on this building. So I pointed something out to him. I said, you have $100,000. Now, my program didn't do this. Okay. I just showed you when I showed him this example, he says, I'm all in. I'm all in because I didn't know. I've been in business for years. I did not know this. So I'm showing him, you have $100,000 in your reserve account. And he has, listen, he's a millionaire many times over. So having $100,000 in a bank account actually means nothing to him, even though it's making 1/10 of 1%. That's it. 1/10 of 1%. So I pointed out to him, I said, could you take a look at cumulative principal, cumulative interest? Could you borrow from that account about $30,000 and apply it to this mortgage? He said, well, yeah, I still have about $70,000 left in there. Okay. But Don, I can't keep doing that. I can't keep borrowing from my reserve account. I won't have a reserve account after a while. I said, hold on. We're not forgetting that you're still putting back into that account every single month about $6,000. That's not going away. You're still going to replenish your account. So let's take $30,000 out. Let's apply it to this mortgage. Okay. And if we do, aren't you paid down to here in just 1 month, saving about $70,000 in interest that you never have to pay, knocking off 12 months off your mortgage by taking $30,000 out of, listen, $30,000 out of an account that's just sitting there waiting for something to go wrong, making 1/10 of 1% interest. You can now take $30,000 out, apply it to the loan, and save 70 grand. And it was Benjamin Franklin that says a penny saved is a penny earned. So let me ask you, all right, Mr. Investor, is $70,000 saved? Does that mean $70,000 earned? You can take that same money, apply here, and save about $70,000. He says, okay, I see that part. But what am I going to do next, Don? If I put this money on this loan right now on payment number 1, I'm paid down to here in 1 month. Okay. But what's next? Well, you see, sir, your next mortgage payment is actually on line 13 of the mortgage of your amortization schedule. You go from payment number 1 to payment number 13 in just 1 month. You are condensing that amortization schedule. I mean, you're just squeezing it. Payment number 1 is now touching payment number 13. All the other payments are gone. You got rid of all the interest between line 2 and line 12. It's all gone. You never have to pay that. And the payments. Okay, you have a lot fewer payments now. Watch this. So you're down here. So if we just took out about $30,000 out of the bank to accomplish this that you like, how long is it going to take you to put that money back if you're putting in about $6,000 a month? He says, well, 6 times 5, that's 30. Okay, so yeah, that's about 5 months. So for the next 5 months, sir, all we're going to do is make minimum payments to this mortgage. So watch this. On month number 13, we just give the bank what they want. Okay. 14, we give the bank what they want. That's 2, 3, 4, 5. For 5 months, he just gave the bank what he wants. Now, does he have his $30,000 back in this account, ladies and gentlemen? Does he have the $30,000 back? You better believe he has it back. Okay. Could he do it again? Could he take that money and apply it again if he wanted to? Now, again, this isn't my program. I'm just giving him an example, okay, so that he can understand the benefit of using all of his assets. Okay. So if we did that again, he says, yeah, I could do that again. Could you knock off another about 12 months? Okay. So far, he's been in this loan for 6 months. 6 months, and he's down to here already, which if he had been following the bank's plan, he would have paid this loan down by $43,000, but it would have cost him $104,000 in interest and taken him 17 months to get here. So watch this. In his first month, in his 6th month, he's going to apply another 30 grand and knock off about another year. So we're going to go down 12 months. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Boom. There it is. He's going to be right around month 29, and it's only taking him 7 months to get here using an accelerated program, paying a very small amount of interest to get here. And if he had followed the bank's plan, instead of being here in 6 months, it would have taken him 29 months the old way, paying down this loan only by $76,000, and it would have cost him $175,000 in interest to get here. Do you see why DIY ain't free, ladies and gentlemen? Doing this on your own ain't free, even when it's just one mortgage. Why is that? Because there are 10 variables, at least 10 variables that we have identified in trying to pay off a loan, the things that you have to consider. Can we go over just some of these? What is going on here? What is going on behind the scenes that the banks don't want you to know? The things that you need to consider. Why do the experts like Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman keep telling us that this thing is easy? All you have to do is. Do you know what? I see this so many times on comments on my YouTube channel, on TikTok, on Instagram. Our information is out there. It's ubiquitous right now. Everywhere you look, if you Google P.I.L.L method today, you can Google P.I.L.L method right now, and everything that has to do with any type of medicine with the word pill in it is on page 2. That's how popular this is now. But even at that, people will look at this, and because it is so different from what they have been told over the years, some will continue to do what they've always done anyway. Okay? They're butting up against what we call cognitive dissonance. I believe what I've been told for years, but your information seems to be way better than what I've been told. But Don, it's different. And we're afraid of different. So I'm telling them, you don't have to be afraid of different. Why? Because we guarantee your results. Okay? So, all right, Clarissa, what do you got here for me, Clarissa? I just saw that. Is this the same as making one extra payment to your principal? Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'm glad you asked that question, though. I'm glad you asked that question. When you make one extra principal payment a year, okay, one extra principal payment a year, the best you can do is save 7 years. You can knock 7 years off a 30-year mortgage. That's the best. Pill method clients, on average, pay off their loans in 7 years. That's the big difference. Okay. Now, another thing, Clarissa, just think about this for a minute because you weren't in here from the beginning. So please watch this show from the beginning when you get a chance. Okay. When you put, by paying one extra payment a year, when you make that payment, how much interest are you saving with that one payment? The answer is you don't know. And if you don't know, how do you know? How do you know that you couldn't have done save even more interest by doing something else? See, our program is going to make sure that by paying the right amount of money in the right month on the right day of the month, you're going to be able to eliminate so much more interest. And we're going to tell you how much interest you're saving so that you can be out of debt on all of your debt, not just the mortgage, but all of your debt in about 7 years. So if there was a way to guarantee that, would you want to know? Yes or no, everybody? If you could guarantee your results, would you want to know how? Put it in the chat, yes or no. Okay, put it in the chat if you could guarantee your results. See, you may not know this, man, because we haven't really talked about it. But my wife is from Costa Rica, so I know what that means. And you live in California, so I know you know what it means. All right. So Laura Gonzalez says, yes, yes, yes. We want to know. We want to know. We want to know. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I'm making these extra payments, I want to know when, I want to know how, I want to know what it's doing for me. So let me show you on one of these smaller mortgages. Okay. Let me show you on one of these smaller mortgages that if you make an extra payment a year, I need you to look at the interest payments. Okay. Watch this, Clarissa. You need to see these numbers to make it make sense. Please go to YouTube because you came in late. Pull up your computer or your tablet or your other phone and go to YouTube and search for P.I.L.L method, and you can see these numbers. Because if you don't see the numbers, it's just hard to conceive. Okay, watch the numbers. Every single month, the amount of interest goes down. Okay. So this is all your interest payments, So if I'm only putting extra money on the loan once a year, does that mean I'm skipping by a whole lot of expensive interest payments I could be canceling? So if I wait till next year, where my interest payments start down at 987, 986, go down to 975. If I wait till next year to do something, can I save as much interest in year 2 as I can in year 1 with the same amount of money? No, I can't, because look here, the interest payments are larger. They're larger here, and it's definitely larger than in year 3, in year 4, and year 5. So the longer I wait, the less interest I can save. That means more interest to the banks. So is timing important? Is timing important in all of this? And I'm saying yes, and that's just one of the things you need to consider. So without going into great detail, okay? Without going into great detail, I need to show you just some of the things, of the variables that you need to consider. The first one is payment frequency and structure. How often are you paying? And what is the structure of your loan? Understanding when and how you receive your income is crucial for timing your prepayments. How often are you paid? Are you paid weekly? That matters. Are you paid biweekly? Are you paid semi-monthly? Are you paid monthly? All of these things matter. How often do you get your money? Not just how much money you get paid, but when are you paid? And when would you be able to put money on principal? And how many days are in between? See, now you see that's just one of the things that you have to consider. Oh, here's another one. Income amount. The amount of money you earn dictates how much you can realistically divert towards debt repayment. Of course, that matters. How much money are you earning? Do you know that if you have, here's one situation where we ran into that this person's job matches 6% of their income to put into a 401k. So they were getting their 6% match, but they were putting in like 12%. They were doubling it, but they were only getting a 6% match. So I showed them how much extra interest is your 401k earning you by putting in that extra money? Or would you be better off just taking the 6% match and taking that other money and applying it to debt and killing a ton of interest? So you see, that is another variable that you need to consider. How much should I be paying towards my 401k? How much money should I be paying towards my mortgage or other loans to kill interest? Okay. The loan structure, discretionary funds. How much do I have left over? And what can I do with that? That's number 4. Number 5, optimal timing and amount. Determining the most effective time and the amount of prepayments. Do you know what it takes to determine the effective time and the effective amount to prepay? That means when you plug it into a computer, computers aren't smart, ladies and gentlemen. They're just fast. And here's just one of the things that our program has to do. How much money do you have available? And in what time frame is it available? So the program has to do that math and say, okay, let's move 1 penny on every single debt, every single month, on every single day. And let's figure out how much interest you can save with 1 penny. And let's do 2 pennies. Let's do 3 pennies on every day, on every debt. Let's do 4 pennies. Let's do 5. So it does all the pennies that you have available and comes up with the right amount of pennies for you. And it could come up to, because of how much money you make, on the 15th of, let's see, this is April. On the 15th of June, you're supposed to put $3,267.15 on your debt on that day. Okay? Because by doing that, you're going to eliminate the most interest per dollar if you do that. Anything else you do, you're going to be losing money. You're not going to save as much interest as you can per dollar. So this is just some of the variables that you need to consider. All right, how many loans do you have? So now it's complicated by the number of loans that you have. Even if you only have 1, there's still 10 variables. Tracking interest cost changes. What if your interest cost changes? Do you realize the more money you put towards your debt, your interest cost is constantly changing? And now you need to do something else to come up with the right amount of money in the right day and the right time. Cash management investment strategies. I just talked to you about that. How much towards debt and how much towards investments, and what's the right amount? All right, that's called critical point analysis. Who's doing that? Okay, nobody else is talking about that. The banks won't tell you that you need to consider all of these things. Here's number 9, emergency funds and fungibility money. Do you know, I know people who have several $1,000s in emergency funds when they shouldn't? No, they have several $1,000s. I'm talking about people who own homes, several $1,000s in emergency funds just in case they lose a job, or if an emergency comes up, they have the cash to pay for the emergency. You know, that is, when you have that kind of cash available, do you know that cash should be making money, not just sitting in the bank? I know people who have 20, 30, 40, $50,000 worth of cash sitting in the bank, waiting for something to go wrong while that money is making 0.1%. Waiting for something to go wrong because somebody told them that they shouldn't put their emergency on a credit card because they're going to get charged interest. But do you know how much money they're losing by sitting 50 grand in the bank just waiting for something to go wrong? How much money are they losing that way? Listen, that's what I'm talking about. Listen, DIY ain't cheap. When you look at that $50,000 sitting in the bank, how much money are you losing? How much extra money are you paying not using that money strategically? And the idea of investing that money and getting compound interest for the next few years so that you can leave something to your family, how much money are you losing by keeping that money in the bank like that? DIY ain't cheap, ladies and gentlemen. Not by a long shot. Not by a long shot. And 10. So we've identified 10 variables. I need you to listen to this. Behavioral economics and financial decision making. That's another variable where we are not great economists on our own. Listen, we don't come into this world understanding any of this. We misunderstand too much of it. And this is the only program out there that's helping us to understand what's right about it. There's just too much that we can get wrong. So, understanding the impact of behavioral economics, such as loss aversion, helps us in designing interventions that encourage more rational financial behaviors. More rational financial behaviors, folks, takes math, not magic and not feeling. It takes math to do it. And I mean a ton of it. And I'm going to give you an example here in a second. Acknowledging and addressing irrational emotional choices can lead to more disciplined and fruitful financial decisions. These 10 variables collectively guide the development and execution of a tailored financial strategy using the P.I.L.L method, ensuring that every aspect of an individual's financial profile is considered for optimal debt reduction and wealth accumulation. The right amounts at the right time in the right place. Effectively managing your debt through optimized prepayments isn't as simple as just paying extra when you have spare cash. And that's what the experts want you to believe. To truly maximize the interest savings per dollar applied, we must consider several personal financial factors: your payment schedule, the size and timing of your income, the specific terms of your loans, and the variability of your monthly discretionary funds. How much is left over at the end of the month? Meaning, oh, my electric bill was $50 more than it was last month. So what do I do now? Yeah, I mean, changes that small make a difference. Okay? These elements require us to perform detailed factorial math to determine the optimal amount to prepay. Watch this. Watch this. Factorial math is just one of the things that we have to consider. Okay? So, what is factorial math? If you have 5 variables, okay, 5 things that you can do you know that means 120 different ways to arrange those 5 variables? 120 different ways. And only one of them is optimum. Okay. Now, what is factorial math? Factorial math means 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. You do it. It comes up to 120. 5 times 4 times 3 times 2, okay, times 1. 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 equals 120. So if you want to do it fast, you go into your computer, okay, and in search, you put the number 5 and an exclamation point. and it will do the math for you. When you hit return, it comes up 120. That's 120 different, they call them permutations. How many permutations are there? 120 permutations. And one of them is correct. One of them, you save the most amount of money. The other 119, you're losing money on the other 119. So do you want to save some money, or do you want to save the most amount of money possible? But if we've identified at least 10 variables per loan, and the average family has 13, Lord have mercy. So let's put that in there. 10 factorial is 3,628,800 different permutations over 3.6 million different things you could do to save money, and only one of them is optimum. Do you see why I'm telling you that doing this all on your own ain't cheap? You're going to pay more money than you need to pay. So listen, to prove that, I had to ask Chat GPT, all right, something. I said, if we do this a certain way, okay, can I come up with a simple formula to optimize interest savings? Can I show you what Chat GPT showed me? Do you want to see it? If you don't care to see it, then we don't have to do this. Okay. But if you want to see it, if I said, is there a simple formula to do this? If you want to see the answer, put a number 5 in the chat. Put a number 5 in the chat if you want to see this. Don, okay, Reggie asked a question here. Your P.I.L.L method is disruptive at the highest level, brother. Your answer to Clarissa's question was an aha moment. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Reggie. Number five. I see the number 5s coming in. Do I have number 5s online? Because I have several people watching me online. Do I have any number 5s there? Okay. They want to see the answer from the Chat GPT. So let me put it on here. Can I get a formula? So here's can a formula be developed for debt reduction? What is the first thing that it says here, folks? What is the first thing that it says? Okay, I see you, Bam. I see you. I'm putting Cinco in there. I see you. All right. Listen, too many variables interact dynamically. Too many variables. That's the first thing. And so it breaks it down. Principal balances, different. Interest rates, different. Payment dates, different. Minimum payment requirements, cash flow, expense variability, opportunity cost. Should I pay debt or invest? Look at that. Chat came up with that. I didn't. Chat came up with that. Should I pay debt or invest or do both? Okay. What about the laws of diminishing returns? Overspending can hurt optimization. I didn't say that. This is what came from Chat GPT. What else did it say? All these variables change over time, meaning you're solving an optimization problem with shifting parameters, not a fixed set of numbers. Everything out there, folks, they're using spreadsheets to try to prove to you that what they're saying is correct when a spreadsheet is inefficient to do what needs to be done. DIY ain't cheap. You're losing money. Okay? Watch this. Fixed formulas only work when everything stays still. But in debt optimization, everything is constantly moving. Listen, I asked ChatGPT to come up with a formula for me. It says I can't do it. Even the chat says, I can't do it. Look at this. Did we just learn about factorial math? What does it say? Factorial complexity. All right, I can't even pronounce this word. Okay, combinatorial explosion. The number of ways you can combine all of these things explodes. I mean, it just gets huge. Oh my gosh, this is chat talking now. If you have 10 debts and you want to decide how to allocate extra money each month, you're not just doing 10 calculations. Lord have mercy. I did not write this. Chat wrote this. Okay. You're choosing combinations across time. Which debt? How much? Which day of the month? How will it affect future months' opportunities? Mathematically, this is closer to factorials and permutations like 10 factorial. Look at this, or even higher. Not simple addition or subtraction, which means millions to billions of possible paths to consider over the lifetime of the debts. This ain't DIY, ladies and gentlemen. This ain't DIY. Let me bring up my graphic that we put together for this today. I'm gonna put that on the screen. I'm gonna put that graphic on the screen because it's important to break down what that really means. Okay. Here's today's graphic. Okay. Look at this. This ain't DIY. Do you see that swirling tornado and all of the different things that have to be considered? And they're using a dime store calculator to try to figure it all out. Okay. Listen, they're tired of paying all that interest, and they realize that if I do some things, I can get a little better understanding of this. But the more I look at it, the more difficult it becomes. Which day do I pay? Payment timing, interest costs, due dates. Okay. I got loan number one when I actually have, but I have 13 different loans, all the percentage rates. And then when I start to try to figure it all out, it just gets crazy. Or I can go over here and do the P.I.L.L method AI, which does all the math for me and tells me how much money to move, what day to move it on, what month to do it in, and which loan to attack. And it's going to figure out for me the best interest savings per dollar. And I just follow the plan, just like financial GPS. I can try to do it myself and say I can still save money and I can still get out of debt all by myself. But the average person will pay $50,000 to $75,000 more in interest than they need to pay and do all the work themselves. Not worth it. Not worth it at all. And listen, and I'm not even through. Listen, I'm not even through here. Okay, putting this on the screen here. I just needed you to see this. Let me take this off. Okay, I'm taking this off. I got to go back here. And chat wasn't through. Chat wasn't through. It says it's an optimization problem, not a calculation problem. What is an optimization problem, not a calculation problem? Okay. Technically, what you're solving is called a dynamic optimization problem. I didn't even know that. Okay. I didn't even know the term. A dynamic optimization problem, not a simple math problem. You see, because I have autism spectrum disorder, I see things in pictures and patterns. Okay. I don't write code. I don't know how to write code. I'm not even remotely interested in learning how to write code. But what I see in an amortization schedule, I see it in pictures and patterns. I can explain this, what I see, to other people who are expert in all of this stuff. Now, if they had tried to tell me 19 years ago, these are all the things we had to consider, Don, and it took months to get it done. All the things they had to consider, it would have just blown my mind. I probably would have given up. But this is what they had to go through to write this program. Okay? So watch this. Technically, what you're solving is called a dynamic optimization program, not just simple a math problem, more specifically, non-linear programming problem, time-dependent optimization, multi-objective optimization. I don't know what any of that means. I just know it's built into the program. That's what I know. Okay. I don't need to know what it means. I just know it's built in. Here's another one. Dynamic optimization problems usually don't have closed form solution. They require algorithms, not equations. Everybody else out there, ladies and gentlemen, they're trying to give you equations, and faulty ones at that. Okay.
Hey, Don, you got an important question in the chat
Let's take a look at that.
Amber. And bottom line, would this work on an auto loan as well?
Okay. It most definitely work on an auto loan. If they're charging you interest, it works. If they're charging you interest, it works. Let me ask you, on your auto loan, do you want to pay the maximum amount of interest that the bank is asking for, or do you want to pay the least amount of interest that the bank is asking for? In other words, do you remember those days, Bam, when you can get 0% interest on an auto loan? Do you remember those days?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the best auto loan, where you don't pay any interest at all. But what's the next best interest rate? What's the next best interest cost? Pay as little interest as you can mathematically by doing the right thing at the right time. Taking all the variables and saying, out of everything you could do, if you do this one thing with this one amount of money on this day, you will kill the maximum amount of interest. And why is that important to do that from the very beginning? Why is it important to start out with maximum savings with optimal months and days and amounts of money? Why is that optimal? And if you know anything about the Olympics or track and field, I recently learned about what's called the triple jump, not just the long jump where you just run up, hit the board, and jump out into a pit as far as you possibly can. But this is the triple jump, where they jump 3 different times before they land in the pit. And then when I look at something, I'm interested in the strategy that's used. So I'm listening behind the scenes when they're talking about that. The most interesting thing about the triple jump is getting the right amount of speed to make the first jump. The other 2 depend on the first jump being as accurate and as powerful as it possibly can be. Do you know that if we're running up to the board, we don't run as fast as we can? You can waste too much energy running up to the board, which means you have less energy to jump and less accuracy to jump. So when you do that, when you make that first jump, the other 2 jumps depend on that first jump. So when you're paying off your loans, ladies and gentlemen, your first payments have to be very accurate to set up the next payment. Not just any old amount, not just any old day, not just any old one of your loans, but the right one at the right month at the right time. That's what we're talking about here. Okay? So not just an algorithm. Can I tell you, have any of you heard of velocity banking? Okay? Velocity banking, where we borrow money from like a credit card or a line of credit and use that money to put on a mortgage. And then we pay back the credit card and start that process all over again. Let me tell you something. It works. Velocity banking works until it doesn't. Velocity banking works until it doesn't. How many of you have heard of velocity banking? Okay. It works until it doesn't. Watch this. Okay. So I'm bringing up, here's an example of velocity banking that went awry. These folks have 2 mortgages coming to $634,000. They have 3 other loans coming that total up to $197,000. But by using velocity banking, by the time they called me, they have taken out 12 different credit cards trying to use velocity banking, and it got away from them. And the amount of money that they owe on 12 different cards is $250,000. $1,000 on credit card debt, trying to use Velocity Banking to pay off $634,000 in mortgages. Now they owe over $1 million in debt by the time they came to us. Now, when we saw that, we had a big old smile on our face. Now, why? Because by understanding, optimizing payment structures, we could see on our side, because we have dedicated customer service people who answer our phones. Okay, you call and somebody answers the phone. They ask a question about our program. Okay, so they call. We look at this, and when we give them this savings and earnings report, do you know we have to guarantee these results? Oh yeah. Once a person becomes one of our clients, we have to guarantee their success in writing, and we have to guarantee it for life. We guarantee it for life. We'll get you these results or you don't pay. We have to give you your money back. Well, Don, if they're supposed to be paid off in record time, why do they need a lifetime program? Well, because once they pay off these two mortgages, these are investors. They want to get 2 more mortgages or 3 more mortgages, and they keep the program for life. They pay for it once and they keep it for life. And every time they put a new mortgage in, we have to guarantee the new results every single time for life. And they pay us once. Have mercy. Okay, watch this. So now that they've got $1 million in debt, they're supposed to pay $692,000 in interest. We're going to show them how to pay $179,954 in interest or less, which means we're now going to reduce everything to the point where they have an effective interest rate. We're not changing any of the interest rates that they have now. We're not refinancing any of what they already have. We're taking exactly what they have. Okay. The program does all the factorial math on 12 credit cards, 3 other loans, and 2 mortgages. Okay. That's 17 different debts that the program is going to organize for them, help them to pay $179,000 in interest or less, saving them $500,000 in interest with their current budget. And they're still able to go out to dinner and go on vacations a couple of times a year. Okay. They're still going to be able to live a great life. Why? Because all the other programs require that you take all of your extra money and throw it at the debt indiscriminately and live like a pauper while you're doing it. Cut up your credit cards, eat beans and rice, drive a 30-year-old car. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. Your kids have to suffer because mommy and daddy can't afford anything anymore because we have to throw all of our money at the debt to do baby step number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and finally pay off the mortgages, baby step number 6. Folks, makes no sense because those baby steps do not take into account how much interest you're actually paying or could save. They're looking at how fast you can pay off the smallest debt and feel good about it. I asked that question in my book. How much do you want to pay for your good feelings? You can feel good about paying off the smaller ones, and making progress, but you're paying a lot more interest than you need to. We're going to save these folks $500,000 in interest. They know that up front. And we're going to guarantee these results. Okay. And when they take that money and not pay it to the bank, they'll be able to take those interest savings and turn it into $4 million worth of net worth if they take that money and invest it instead of giving it to the bank. And this is at 1%. This is at making 1% on their money, 1% annually. What if they could get the average that the family could get somewhere between 6 and 10% a year? This number, this $4 million starts to explode at that point. Stop giving your money away to the bank. Stop believing that this thing is, look, let me put this back on the screen. This ain't DIY, ladies and gentlemen, and DIY ain't cheap. So What about the folks, Don, that say, thank you for the information, okay, but why should I have to pay for this? I got all your videos and they're for free. And I can save a lot of money and save a lot of time. Yes, you can. But DIY ain't cheap. Even using my videos, you're still going to pay $50,000 to $75,000 more in interest on average to get out of debt, because you're not making specific moves at specific times on specific loans like the opportunity cost calculator can do for you. Even by watching the videos. We do these videos so that you can know you have a chance. Get the program, ladies and gentlemen. Go to ice10k.com, ice10k.com, and get this. So, and get the best thing that you can, and look at all the things that we've talked about today, and understand that DIY, this ain't DIY. And when you do it yourself, it ain't cheap. It's very expensive. DIY ain't free. Says, Don, I can do this for free. No, you can't. Not when you consider how much interest you're going to pay. And so, Don, how much does your program cost? Our program costs you nothing. Why? Because you signed up for all these mortgages and everything, all the other debt. You put your name on the dotted line and you promised to pay them over $500,000 in interest. That was the promise you made to them. So if I could save you $500,000, how much does my program actually cost if what we're going to charge you is a small fraction of the $500,000 that you already paid, that you were going to pay the bank? Our program costs you nothing. It actually costs the bank something, because that's money they're not going to get anymore. Plus, it's a lifetime program. So how much does our program cost? It costs you nothing. It costs the bank something, because they're not. It's going to cost them over $500,000. Does anybody feel sorry for the bank, that the banks are not going to get $500,000? Anybody feel sorry for them? I don't think so. Okay. So you can watch my videos and do it yourself, but you're not doing it for free. Keep that in mind. Okay. All right. Now let's watch another couple here that we're going to watch a few minutes of this, that got our program straight out of college. I met them straight out of college. She's a teacher, and he is a brand new real estate agent, okay, straight out of college with student loans and a mortgage, okay? And they paid off their first mortgage in 6.5 years. Their student loans going to private school were paid off the next year. And this was their first house. This was back in 2008. Now they're in the midst of paying off their fourth house right now. But we did this video a few years ago, but I want you to listen to their story just a little bit. This is Mike and Beth Rosenboom.
It seems foreign at first. Like, you know the interest is there and you know it exists, but you just don't completely grasp how many tens of thousands of dollars that you're paying in interest when you don't have to.
No way. That was my reaction. Like 30-year mortgage and, 5 years, 6 years, no way.
So here we are, 6.5 years later, just finished a 30-year mortgage payoff, and some of those same friends are coming back to us that were skeptical at first, saying, now, what was this about again?
They're like, really? You're only 30 years old. You're supposed to be paying on that for a long, long time.
And going through business classes through college and understanding economics and managerial finance and how to operate small businesses, we understand we have debt, we have interest that goes along with that debt. But we just didn't understand how our amortization schedule was set up and how much interest we're actually spending. We didn't initially have the understanding because we haven't been taught this way before. Take a $5 cup of coffee When you take that $5 and actually look at your debt and your amortization and how much you're spending in interest, really $5 could eliminate about $35 worth of interest. So the $5 cup of coffee is not a $5 cup of coffee, it's a $35 cup of coffee.
It took me a few tries to actually get it. He explained it to me maybe 2 or 3 times, and I thought, okay, I don't know, I'll have to see this for myself.
Changing the word penalty to a cost benefit. The word penalty, it makes you feel like you've done something wrong. No one wants to pay a penalty or pay a fine for something. That's the question you have to ask yourself. How much is it actually costing me to pay down my debt? You're sitting there trying to look at it way too deeply, and you're looking for that catch. You say, okay, it sounds too good to be true. What am I missing? Finally clicked and the light bulb went off. We said, oh yeah, the catch is there is no catch. It really is that simple.
Every time you log in, you see that date of your complete debt payoff. That's my favorite part to see.
When you log into it and you're looking at that dashboard, you have different ways that will open up your eyes to motivating you even harder to pay off that debt. I know it's put us in a better position where we can provide a better future for our child and being able to enjoy some things in life and travel more.
I'm just super excited to be so young and to say we've paid off our mortgage and we can free up all this money to use for giving to others, there's all kinds of things that we can do. That's sort of been our financial goal at the beginning. We started in Honduras. The people there just took our hearts. We've been keeping in contact with them ever since then, which was maybe, 7 or 8 years ago.
They contacted us through Facebook and they said, we don't know what we're gonna do, because the cancer treatments are just beyond reach for us. Because of the P.I.L.L method, when somebody who's devastated over a $600 cancer treatment that they can't afford, which we can't imagine it's even that low, we sit here and we say, well, yeah, here's money to get the cancer treatments done. We're not only putting our child in a better financial future, but we're also teaching her how to manage the money. And it's not that we have a magical program. You still have to have discipline, and it's life concepts that we all need to pay attention to. Say hi.
You are so sweet.
So pretty. In my career as a real estate agent, this technology has been phenomenal for the clients that I work with on a day-to-day basis. I've been around real estate literally my entire life with our family-owned real estate company, and some of our clients that we sat down with and were forced to sell because they got laid off from their jobs, they had hours cut back, they had to look for work in other parts of the country. And we looked at selling their property, and they said, we literally have nothing to show for our time here. We've been paying our monthly payments month after month like clockwork, and we're literally gonna have to pay someone to buy our home from us. And it was so frustrating to have this conversation and their reaction to where they were, that if they had been on a program like the P.I.L.L method, in just as little as a couple of years, you can put yourself into having rapid equity growth, even in a declining market. A lot of friends and clients that I've talked to say, well, we can put extra money on the principal of our mortgage, paying off our smallest debts and working our way up to our largest debt and pay it off, just as quick ourselves. I use the analogy of, following a GPS. And it may pull up 3 or 4 different routes. They all get you to your destination, but the P.I.L.L method is just way more effective. It eliminates literally tens of thousands of dollars in interest that we were going to have to pay doing it the other way. But the technology that backs up this program is just phenomenal. It's finally sinking in, I think, to some of our friends and families and clients that we work with, because we're sort of walking testimonies that it works.
I think that it should be taught in schools, really, but the banks might not be too happy about that because they like those interest payments coming in.
What's interesting is that one of our most reputable lenders that we work with here in this area, her and her husband actually joined the P.I.L.L method program just a few years ago. If more people caught on to this program and this technology, it would drastically boost the real estate growth here in our area. Her and her husband, they looked at the numbers and said, you know, a refinance is not going to benefit us from where we are. The P.I.L.L method is the plan that we need to put into our lives.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that I'm a real estate background. Their entire family has been in this thing for years and they didn't know about optimized interest cancellation. And when introduced to them, now they are not only benefiting from it, they're paying off their fourth house and sharing this with their clients. Oh my gosh. You know, I met one of their clients. One of their clients came to us, was getting ready to buy a house. And this was some years ago, right? They were getting ready to buy they were building a $400,000 house. And they had enough down to get the thing started. But this was an engineer who had an extra $100,000. And then Michael said to him, don't put that as a down payment. I need you to talk to Don Daniel so that you can see the benefit of not putting that $100,000 down as a down payment. Okay. So when he sent him to me, this is when I'm getting ready to show you something. And this is what we were able to share with this individual. So we're going to put this back on the screen. Okay. We're going to put this back on the screen. And then we're going to share what I call down payment deception. Down payment deception. So now he has a local business person, okay, is building, he's got this $400,000 home. And he asked, should I put $100,000 down? And folks, this is our last example for today. All right. Our last example for today. Okay. So please pay attention. And if you want to see this, go to YouTube. And make sure you subscribe. If you're following us on our Facebook, make sure you subscribe to our Facebook page, the P.I.L.L Method Facebook page, and then you'll be able to get access to all this information. But watch this, watch this. He asked, should he put $100,000 down so he could finance a $300,000 mortgage instead of $400,000 at 3% over 30 years? Like I said, this was just a few years ago. Okay, watch this. So I told him, nope, the $400,000 mortgage is the way to go. He couldn't believe it. Now, being an engineer, he had to show me what he was working on. And here's what he came up with. He said, Don, here's the comparison side by side, $400,000 mortgage on one side, $300,000 mortgage on the other side. So my payment on the $400,000 mortgage is $1,686.42. If I put $100,000 down, my payment is $1,264.81. I said, yes, the interest rate is the same, but look, the total amount of interest they want me to pay is $207,000 if I get the $400,000 loan. But on the $300,000 loan, my total interest paid that they want me to pay is $155,000 instead of $207,000. So the total paid back is $607,000, where I can have $455,000 here. But what I told him, that the rates that the bank is making is the same. It's 51.777% on each loan. That's what they're focused on. Let me show you what's really going on behind the scenes. Okay. So this is what I showed him. So the difference in interest paid between the $400,000 mortgage and the $300,000 mortgage in the way that we're taught to look at this thing is this. Here's the math. 207,000 minus 155,000, 51,779. So if he's going to be in that loan for 30 years, here's how much interest he could save over 30 years. $51,779.60. I couldn't argue with that because it's true. A $51,000 savings, that's nothing to sneeze at. I invest $100,000 down payment and it saves me $51,000 overall. That is a compelling argument, okay? It's just not an efficient argument. So let me show you his amortization schedule. Here's his amortization schedule on that very first payment, okay? Now, on the $400,000 loan, he gets the $400,000 loan and he looks at this and says, oh, my very first payment, $686.42 goes to principal, $1,000 goes to interest. Oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I said, now, so I asked him, where, if you get this $400,000 mortgage, where's your $100,000? He says, my $100,000 is still in the bank. I said, yes, your $100,000 is still in the bank. So why do you want to put $100,000 down? As I said, it saves me money. Plus, I don't have to pay PMI if I do that. So now you want me to pay more and pay PMI. I said, but what could you do now? Could you take the $100,000 that you have in the bank? Could you apply it to principal right now? He stopped. He started thinking about it. I see you, Julia Roberts. I see you. Okay. Could you apply that $100,000 right now? It says, yeah, I could. And what would happen? I need you to take a look at column 3 and column 4, cumulative principal and cumulative interest. On his very first payment, see, he wanted a $300,000 mortgage. If he had done that, he'd start out on payment number 1 at $300,000. But now he has a $400,000 mortgage. He still has his $100,000. He could prepay it if he chooses to, so he does. He puts that $100,000 as a prepayment, and look what happens. He knocks 125 payments off immediately, saving $110,000 in interest he doesn't have to pay. Watch this, ladies and gentlemen. Watch this. Applying $100,000 prepaid instead of a down payment to your $400,000 mortgage will save you $110,000 in interest on this loan. And watch this. And eliminates 10 years, 3 months of payments immediately. Oh my gosh. So by taking that $100,000 and using it as a prepayment, you now have only 19 years, 9 months left on a 30-year loan. Wow. Instead of that $300,000 mortgage starting out at payment number 1. Now, he says, well, what about the PMI? I said, yeah, you do have PMI for one payment. Okay? Because once you put the $100,000 down, you can apply to have the PMI taken off. So, which way would you rather? Start out on payment number 1 with a $300,000 mortgage for 30 years, or have the $400,000 mortgage, which you can afford, CAN, can afford. You can afford the payment, but now you can take your $100,000, use it as a prepayment instead of a down payment, and only have 19 years, 9 months left. And if that's all you do, you're going to be done, okay, in a little over 19 years instead of 30. That's all you do. But if you join our program by continuing to use the P.I.L.L method, which is going to optimize every other payment you have from now on, plugging it in, you're going to be out of debt in just 7 years. And the amount of interest that you're going to pay in total is about $30,000 for the entire loan. Oh my goodness. What happened next, ladies and gentlemen? That's it. I am his new best friend. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we call computerized optimization. Put everything into this program. Not only do you get a uh, a, a program that is run by artificial intelligence. You get a coach that comes along with it, and we guarantee your results for a lifetime. And if you Google Pill Method right now, Google Pill Method right now, you will see that we've been in business for 19 years. Pull up our Better Business Bureau, A+ rating. And do you know that when a business gets a complaint, that the business has an opportunity to resolve the complaint? And a lot of businesses do that. And a lot of good businesses get complaints and they resolve them. But check and see how many complaints we've had in 19 years. 0 complaints. 0 complaints. We want to, because we guarantee the results. If you don't get the results we promise, we have to give you your money back. And besides, folks, it's not magic, it's just math. We've come up with a way to optimize interest savings, not just pay off the debt. Oh my gosh, there we go. So that's what we're talking about. So folks, this is our last example for today. Let me look and see if there are any other questions that we need to talk about. Any other questions in here in the chat? So let me take this off the screen. Okay. All right, let me take this off. And here we go. Bring this back. And let's talk about it for the last few minutes of today. Okay, any questions?
Don, I actually have a question.
Yes, sir.
David listened for about an hour and 30 minutes. So I asked him on a 10-point scale what he thought, and he's been in real estate decades.
Yes.
And he said he needed to watch the YouTube video before he can give me on a 10-point scale what his thoughts are. So he'll definitely circle back. So that's just a comment.
Yeah.
My question is, as you know, in this current economic climate and with the orange guy in the White House,
yes,
there's a lot of people losing their jobs, John. A lot, thousands and hundreds of thousands. So I believe, because I've heard your presentation, as you know, numerous times, you truly have a silver bullet when it comes to being able to pay off debt quickly and erase interest. What do you recommend to your clients that need to increase their income? I'm done speaking.
Okay. That they need to increase their income. Bam. That question, flesh and blood did not reveal that unto you, because our program doesn't increase income. I can tell you that right now. That's not our business. The program itself does not. But when you become one of our clients, financial coaching is one of the things that we provide. And one of the things that we help people to understand is, what if you could make more money? You need to understand that you have the right and even the obligation to be as productive as you possibly can. And the first thing that you need is to have the right mindset towards money. Bam, there's absolutely nothing wrong with making money. I heard somebody talk about yesterday that you can get rich, you can make $1 million in a month, or you can make $1 million over 30 years. $1 million over 30 years ain't rich. $1 million in a month is rich. Okay? So if you have a mindset that you're supposed to do the very best you can for your family and for yourself, then why don't you get the proper mindset and then figure out for yourself what gifts and talents you have that you can monetize? And bam, I don't know where you were going with that question, but this is how we help our clients And one of the things that we ask them to do is write down how much money you want to have come in to your household. And it's a 3-step process. Here's the first step. Without thinking about it, how much money do you want to have come into your household? Okay, that's the first number they write down. The second number is, I need you to expand that just a little bit, expand your thinking. And how much more money would you need to take care of everything you need and to be able to help someone else? Now, add to that number so that you can actually be able to help someone else if they were in need. Now, what's that new number? The third step is now take that number, that second number, and add to it a number that makes it so large that you know you could not do it with your current skill set and your current thinking, so that you would have to rely on a force outside yourself. You would have to depend on God to give you an idea that will help you to become the person you need to be to achieve that number, so you know you didn't do it yourself. You have to do something else. You have to become somebody else. You have to grow yourself to be able to achieve that number. And Bam, I want you to know that over the years, I've had several clients have to revise that number up because they were able to achieve that number within a few months or a few years of getting their idea. Let me tell you about this one family. This guy, they're both teachers, ma'am. I got their video. Maybe I can show it next time. They're both teachers, and we did this with them. When I met them, they have their master's degrees in teaching. When I met them, they had $13.06 in the bank. And if you go to P.I.L.L Method, my P.I.L.L Method YouTube channel, and search for $13.06, you will see that. $13.06. So they're now when I met them, and you know what their goal was? Within this 1 year, they wanted was a husband and wife, and they had chosen that the wife would stay home and homeschool the children. But they had $13.06 in the bank, bam. So by getting on our program, which was a sacrifice for them, in 11 months, they paid off about $24,000 worth of debt. She was able to quit her job and stay home and homeschool the children, and they had more money in the bank on one income than they did on two. Bam, what was the difference? What was the difference? It was how they viewed the money that they already have. They didn't make any more money to pay off the debt. They needed to view the money differently and use it differently to pay off the debt that they already have with the money they were making. But they wrote down how much money they wanted to have come into their household. Do you know opportunities started to come to the gentleman? Says, can you do this at our school for us? Can you do this and make this extra money? Can you start doing this and make extra money? Can you start doing this? And do you know that guy ended up with his, after a while, ended up with his own business that he runs after school to increase his income? Not only did he increase his income, that his wife started up a tax business that she could do from home and increase their income. Oh, I'm not done. Not only did the wife get that start that business, but the young lady, their daughter, started making soap. She wanted a business too. She started making soap and adding to her income. And the young man, I mean, the really young man, said, listen, I like bees. And they started keeping bees. He started out with a small hive, and I don't know how many he has now, but he's making money with his bees. He rents out his bees. They live in a rural community. He rents out his bees. Bam. Do you see where we're going here? I don't know if that's what you were talking about, but that's what we do, and that's just one story.
That's good, brother. I want to close with this. My question was loaded because, we teach people how to make money from the internet. May I pop a link regarding our 9 a.m. on BAM Friday? Does that in conflict with anything you do? 9
Absolutely
a.m.
not.
Pacific time?
Absolutely not.
Try to make it too, Doc. You haven't seen what we do in a while.
Yes.
Give us 18 minutes and it will be clear. I'll put that in the chat right now. But
Okay.
Friday, we have BAM Fridays. Give us 18 minutes. I'm going to ask David to come in also because there's so much synergy in what David's been doing for decades in the real estate industry, what you're doing with P.I.L.L, what we're doing with BAM. And I got an epiphany today. So I'm going to land my plane there and I'm going to bounce. Thank you so much, Don. This is, as you know, I've heard your presentation
Yes.
many times. It's always engaging. And I'm going to say each time I also learned something new. So I appreciate you. And I think you will find likewise with us and the works that we're doing. So I'm Brian Franklin, and I approve that message, and I'm done speaking for now. Bam.
Wow. Thank you, Bam, for being here. I appreciate you, folks. Folks, listen, I just want to be able to share with you, though. I am going out of town this week. My niece is getting married, so we're heading to North Carolina. I'm driving on Thursday because we have to take a whole lot of stuff with us, so we're not flying. My car over the last few years for some reason can't drive past the airport, but this time I have to. All right, so we're driving past the airport. We're going to this thing, and I'm driving on Friday, so I should be able to listen in. So I'm glad you gave me that link. We'll be able to do that. But folks, we're going to have on Friday. We're going to have our replay up on Monday on our nighttime show. I'll still be out of town, so on our nighttime show, it will not be live. We're going to do another replay on our nighttime Monday night show at 7 p.m. Eastern time. On Mondays, we are now live on Mondays now at night. So people have been asking for it, and we're finally able to give them a Monday, a nighttime show for those people who work. Says Don, I watched your replays, but I want to be on the show live. So can you do a nighttime show? So on Mondays, we're live at night. Wednesdays, we're still live in the mornings at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern. And on Mondays, we're live at 8 a.m. I'm sorry, 8 p.m. No, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central on Monday nights. So, all right. And on Fridays and on Sundays, we have replays up for you. So we got plenty of content out there, folks. Watch us on YouTube, watch us on Facebook. And if you like shorter videos, we've taken this content and we've broken it down into bite-sized chunks, 10 minutes or less. And you can watch those videos on Instagram and TikTok. All right. So let me take a look and see if there are any other questions here. Thank you for putting that link in there, Bam. Okay. I'm going to copy it. Okay. Copy the link. And I'm putting it in my notes over here so I can be ready. Oh, and okay, I got it. I got the whole link in. Got it. All right, there it is. So I've got my link all set for this Friday. And folks, I recommend that you check in with Bam, see what he's offering. And he's been on here a long time. And I know people who recommend what he's talking about. All right. So let me check and see if there's any other questions. I'll be checking online right quick at the comments here. And that's it. Okay. There was somebody so Julia Roberts was here. Okay. American actress and film producer, chief executive. I really do hope that was the real Julia Roberts. That would be fantastic if that was at Julia Roberts 1. So she was here for a hot minute. Okay. And There we go. And she made some comments. So that was great. All right, folks. Thank you very much. Thank you for doing everything you can to support what we've been doing. Share this information with family and friends because they deserve to know. They deserve to know that DIY, this ain't DIY. It hasn't been for a very long time. We're here to provide the technology and the coaching that will help people to eliminate thousands of dollars in interest that they don't have to pay. So go to ice10k.com and get your savings and earnings report today. It's complimentary. ice10k.com. Click on that link that says get a savings and earnings report. Fill that information in and get your information, and it's complimentary so that you can know the month, day, and year you can be debt free, and so that you can start coaching and know that there is a system that's at least 100 times better than any other program out there that is designed to save you money and to help you to build generational wealth using AI technology and advanced financial coaching. I want to thank you for being here today. And I'll be back. I'll be back live in a couple of weeks after we come back from the wedding, but you will still have good content up here for you on Sunday, on Friday, on Sunday, and on Monday. And I should be back by next Wednesday. If all goes well, I'll be back next Wednesday live again a week from now. So thank you so very much. So
not modulating for me, Don.
I'm sorry. What was that, Bam? Okay, I can't hear him. All right. Anyway, folks, this is our graphic for today. This ain't DIY, but I'll be back again a week from now. So enjoy the rest of your day. Watch our videos. Get your savings and earnings report. Stop giving all your money to the bank.
Just me, you all, or if you can hear Don, do a thumbs up for me, please.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Don.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, good enough. Good enough. I'm glad everybody can hear me. All right, folks, we're out of here.
If you can't hear Don, thumbs down for me, please. I modded, so I don't want to leave the room open if Don is not here. I want to close it, but I don't want to close it.
Wait a second.
Can you hear me? Can you hear?
Bam, I can hear you. Okay, I've just got to let Bam know. All right, so for some reason, Bam's situation, he can't hear or see, but we know we are okay.
I'm good now. We're up here.
Okay, we're good. We're good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. Thank you so much. Get the information that you deserve. Get your savings and earnings report, and we will be back. I hope that the information that you received today lets you know that doing it yourself, you can do it, but you're still giving the bank $50,000 to $75,000 more in interest than they deserve by doing it yourself, even though you're getting out of debt faster and cheaper, but it's still way too expensive. Work with us. We have the only program that's designed this way in the entire world. It has been a pleasure for me to be here with you today, and we'll see you in about a week. Bye-bye. Okay, let me put this graphic back up here for just a second. There we go.